Can I sing, my love?
It's alright.
I'm alright. I'm decent. Good day, everybody. We hit legs today. Today's a special day. It's my favorite day. It's not chest day, because that's usually a lot of people's favorite day, but today's leg day. I love legs. Legs is gonna be like, is my favorite day. We get to just go all out and have a great time, bust a nasty sweat. The warm season is coming, y'all. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. I can actually feel it in my sweat pores. They're actually opening up for the first time in like months. It feels beautiful, divine even, I might say. But for legs, we're gonna warm up a little bit on the bike, get a little bit of stretches on the stall bar. I'll probably hit a little bit of squat mats, a little bit of calf raises right after that. And I really want to get a quad focused leg session today. So you'll see me use the bench for some stability, a little bit of kind of a variation on box squats, if you know what those are. I'll be using my Slant board from the Tib Bar guy, and getting a little bit of barbell work. Might even throw in a few kettlebell movements just to keep everything nice and loosey-goosey, you know what I'm saying? So with that said, let's get into it.
Alrighty, y'all, we are in it. We're back on in it. Taking a look at our training footage, warming up on. I've got a little bit of a different warm up. If you can hear me, I'm a little under the weather, but that's okay. Got a bit of a different warm up this time around for legs, particularly, y'all. Now I know there's been a lot of back and forth in terms of how effective these rollers are, but I like to use it to crack my back because it just kind of gives me that psychological feeling of okay, release. We're gonna be good. I'm gonna be all right. I'm not gonna crack nothing. I'm not gonna pull nothing. I'm gonna be good. But you saw me at the first few exercises getting a variation of a shin box in there, working internal rotation, and now you see me out here using my yoga block to assist me in external rotation of the hips. Very important before we get into any kind of leg work. I like to throw this in first and foremost before warming up the legs because you'll see coming up in here in a few minutes. When we're done warming up the legs on our assault bike here, getting some blood flow, getting the heart pumping, getting the blood flowing. I like to go forward and backward. It's a bit of a nitpicking kind of thing, but you know, hey, I like to incorporate both movement patterns there. But you see me right now stretching out the quads, particularly using the reverse Nordic curl. Assisted, of course. I've got my band set up on my top rung on the stall bar, and I've been playing with this one lately, y'all. You can see a little bit of shakiness, a little bit of instability there in the ankles. I've been working to try to work that out. I don't want any kind of instability in my ankles, especially when it comes to things like gymnastics and really explosive plyometrics. You want strong, stable ankles. Everything, all the power of the legs goes right through that point in the kinetic chain. And if it's weak, you're gonna have some problems. I've had a lot of problems rolling my ankles in terms of doing different kinds of flips and landings and stuff, and it's just not a fun thing. It's just not a fun injury to have, not a fun injury to rehabilitate either. You see me also finishing up with some hamstring work, just kind of stretching out those hams with some side kicks, some glute banded kicks. And I got started on this leg day with some squat max, y'all. First off, working 90 pounds on the belt squat. I've got a 24-pound kettlebell ready to go for when I get done with these belt squats. I'm gonna immediately superset that into some calf raises. You could kind of still consider this a bit of warm-up exercise, a little bit of warm-up, a little bit higher degree of a warm-up, but I like to, I'm gonna start incorporating more calf work, especially at the beginning of my exercise routine when it comes to legs, just so I'm as fresh as can be, and the calves get nice and stimulated, and it's not something that I have to be worrying about toward the end of the workout. Now you see my beautiful wife here and our dog, Miss Sasha Bear, working the squat max as well. Little fun fact, the wife is pregnant. We are pregnant, y'all, and we're very, very happy, but that has not stopped my wife from wanting to continue in her physical fitness journey, y'all. She loves working out. I love working out with her. It's always a great vibe. And this squat max here helps her to get that squat movement pattern, load the squat movement pattern without necessarily risking any kind of low back or any kind of core injuries, y'all, especially in her state. She also supersetted with some decent calf raises as well, some body weight calf raises, nice deep stretch at the bottom, big concentric movement up at the top, and now you see me back on screen here getting a few more sets. I do believe this was our top, well, my top set of squat max. I got 90 plus another 50, so we're looking at about 140 pounds on the belt. Really not much, but relatively, but I was still feeling it. I've been getting away from my hands being on the bar there. So more load on the legs, more focus, more intensity on just the legs, which is all that we're trying to work out today in this particular leg day. Again, working those calf raises, single leg for me because a lot of my gymnastics movements are tricking gymnastics. It's all done off of really one leg. So to have that unilateral strength, to have that single leg strength and stability is paramount. It's key. It's an absolute necessity. Finishing up here with the wife, she's got a 45 pound and a 10 pound. Just really cranking out those reps. This is nothing but quads, nothing but glutes, a little bit of hams, but those bigger muscles of the body that we're working right here on this leg day. She's over here having a conversation, doing an awesome job, doing a great job, I might add, with no hands either. So all of that weight, all of that intensity is there on the legs. From there, we moved on to a more traditional exercise. For me, myself, the barbell back squat. I've got 95 pounds on here, which is the 45 pound bar and two 25 pound plates on each side. And you'll notice that I'm on my slant board. I'm not flat. My feet are not flat on the floor at this point, okay? They're on the slant board, and I'm doing a nice gentle touch on the bench right there before coming up on the concentric part of the movement there. Basic reasoning for what I'm doing here is with the slant board, it's putting my feet and elevating my heels at a very high degree. So it's really focusing on those quads, y'all. Very much quad-centric movement. And then the bench set up where it's at gives me kind of a proprioceptive cue to be like, okay, that's low enough. It standardizes the rep, and as soon as I feel that touch, boom, we come right on back up. Working a lot of control, a lot of eccentric control when it comes to those barbell back squats. Now, I didn't have the wife do that on this one. I had her do kettlebell goblet squat. So she's got a 24 pound kettlebell in hand at the moment, but the technique is exactly the same. She's standing on that slant board, which is putting most of the emphasis on the quadriceps, controlling that eccentric all the way down. She's got a nice gentle touch right here at the bottom. She feels it, and then she comes right on back up, y'all. We got about, I want to say 15 reps on this first set, and kind of went up in weight and down in reps in a classic pyramid style for this particular leg workout. Now we followed up those barbell back squats with a hamstring movement, okay? This is pretty much the only hamstring movement that we did, but I'm on my freak athlete Nordic bench getting these real deal Nordic curls. I've got a 10 pound plate that I'm holding right here at my chest to provide a little bit of resistance. We're all having conversations right now. Don't mind my face, okay? We're all having conversation, and we're just, we're me, the wife, the brother-in-law, we all shooting shit, and it's a good old time, y'all. So enjoying this leg day training. Nonetheless, focusing on these hamstrings with a good, decently controlled eccentric movement on the way down, and then a concentric movement all the way back up. I'm really trying to make sure that my hamstrings are the only muscles that are working in this particular exercise. You see a lot of people do a lot of body English and rock their lower back and their upper back up to initiate the movement to garner some sort of momentum, but that takes away some of the work and the load from the hamstrings, which is ultimately not what we want to do. We want the hamstrings to be working. Follow that exercise up with I don't want to say it's a Chris Sanchez original, but I haven't seen anybody do these kinds of things, and I love getting creative in the gym, y'all. It's one of my favorite things to do. I barely mastered the pistol squat, body weight pistol squat. So what I wanted to do was throw a little bit of a plyometric flair into these pistol squats. So what you'll see me do is a pistol squat with a jump squat at the very top. So I feel that I'm incorporating a lot of explosive power in not only the quads, but the glutes, as well as the calves, which is in terms of gymnastics, in terms of tricking, in terms of martial arts. We want to have all three of those muscles, including the hamstrings, so let's call it 4. All 4 of those muscles working together, able to talk to each other adequately to deliver and transmit power very quickly, very efficiently, and very safely. This was the last exercise, y'all, that my wife was gonna do today in this particular one. She can't do too much. She doesn't do too much. She knows her limit, so we figured let's finish this thing off with a nice hamstring movement, which was right here. She got a pull-through cable RDL, if you want to call it that. It's more or less what it is, okay? She's getting a little RDL action, but she's on the cable machine pulling through with the rope. A few leg days ago, I did this exact exercise, this exact movement, and it really, really helped to absolutely light up my hamstrings. I had DOMs for like 3 or 4 days afterwards, which isn't the go-to, you know, like telltale sign of like, oh, you did a great workout. It's a great indicator, but for those of you who maybe aren't necessarily feeling as sore all the time or even after every single workout, don't beat yourself up over it. Soreness is not the only metric, nor is it the only indicator that you had a good workout. In my book, the only bad workout is the one that didn't happen. Finally coming out from those cable pull-throughs, I'm back over here on the barbell back squat. Now I got a little bit of respectable weight here. I got 135, okay? I'm creeping into the barely respectable weight, but I'm still on that slant board, still using the bench to make sure that I've got a nice proprioceptive cue to gently touch at the bottom, control it, and come right on top, okay? Come right up on top, okay? Slow eccentric, pause at the bottom. That is the most hypertrophic portion of the movement, that stretch at the bottom. You must accentuate it. I know it hurts. It's supposed to hurt. We're here for the hurt, y'all. We want the hurt. If you want quads from the gods, you're gonna have to pause at the bottom of that squat. Coming back over to now the Nordic curl, I lowered the bench by about 5 degrees, so adds a little bit of intensity, and as you can see, I don't have the 10-pound plate anymore because I'm working with a little bit steeper, or rather a little bit lower of an angle, so it's causing me to work a little bit harder, especially right here at the bottom portion of this movement. Boom, I'm really, and you'll see me kind of, you know, like I'm grabbing my ass out here, but I promise you, I'm not. You may want to think that, but I'm not. I'm feeling my hamstrings. I'm really trying to garner a nice mind-muscle connection with those hamstrings. And as I got tired through the set, I started to self-spot, which is a technique that you can use in some exercises. In this one in particular, you can use. So as I'm going down in the eccentric, I'll put my hands out. I'll grab the handles and control it as much as I can with good form, okay? That being the ultimate factor and the ultimate key. Here are these plyometric pistol squats from another angle right here. Still using the same amount of assistance. I've got it still up at the top rung. But once again, you can see the amount of knee flexion, ankle flexion, hip flexion, and then boom, to explode out from that bottom position. I'm about 4 days out from this leg workout, and I'm pretty adequately recovered, but this really felt good. I liked it a lot, and I've been trying to figure out ways to have very deep ranges of motion and still incorporate plyometric work, and I'm really going to keep this one in the playbook for a good while, because it felt really good. Knees felt good, hips felt good, ankles felt good. As y'all can see, we got some new mats. We got some Fuji mats up in the gym now, and they felt phenomenal. They felt really good. I was very happy with this purchase. I've been waiting for months to try to get these mats in the gym. Finally got them in. They're not all in, but we're gonna work to get them all nice and clean, nice and crisp. It'll look real good. Finally, top set, y'all. I've got 155 pounds on the bar, only 155. Still working on that slant board, still coming down to that bench with a nice gentle pause at the bottom, and then as quickly or as athletic of a rise to the top as I could possibly get it, y'all. By this point, my quads were cooked. They were cooked, but they weren't fried just yet, okay? We got a few more exercises to do before that point comes into fruition. Last set of Nordic curls here, and you can see me, I'm self-spotting from the very get-go. My hamstrings were already pretty stimulated from these, at least these 3 sets right here. So this was more about just controlling the movement as much as I could, and really just feeling a nice burn, a nice stretch there in those hamstrings. You don't really feel too much stimulation there at the top when you're actually risen up, but going down, it just feels like your hamstrings are being torn apart from the knees into that hip insertion where they go right under the glute. If you have this kind of bench, man, you got to be doing these, man. If you don't, there's many ways to replicate this exercise using Smith machines, using dumbbells, using barbells, depending on how you kind of mount it, how you kind of configure it. But I would highly recommend incorporating that hamstring work, that body weight kind of calisthenic hamstring work, because it's just, you don't get the same feeling on a lying hamstring curl, you don't get the same feeling on a seated hamstring curl. Both very good exercises, do not get me wrong, but man, that Nordic is just it's a real game changer, because it makes your body and your really most of your posterior chain talk to itself in a way that those two machines just kind of won't really do. They're isolation machines for isolating the hamstrings, but man, you can really get those hamstrings to work with the rest of your body, and it's just it's beneficial for athletes, it's beneficial for the normal day-to-day human being. It's a function of what we can do, y'all. We can do this. We can do this. We're the best movers on the planet. God is the best engineer ever, and he engineered a beautiful machine that can move in a myriad of different ways, y'all. That might be a little redundant, okay? Myriad different. Anyway, to go back to the beginning of the video, you can see how sweaty I am at this point. I got a few plates underneath me just to provide a little bit of elevation, but I'm working with my kettlebells here. I got my straps on because I don't want the forearms to become a limiting factor in this exercise. This is about the legs. So I put the lifting straps on to take the forearms out of the equation, and this is a lot more glute centric, y'all. If you notice as well, technique wise, I'm not stepping straight out. I'm stepping out and at an angle. This gives me a wide base and helps to reduce any kind of balancing issues that one may have. With the knee really pointed over the toe, that's a lot of quad. If the shin were to come a little bit further back and the angle would be more of a 90-degree angle, that'd be a lot more glute. But I'm trying to get a little bit of hybrid of both, but again, going back to quad focused leg days is what we were trying to do here. And the whole step through is just to simulate a movement that occurs during a tricking move called a flash kick. I haven't got that on the ground just yet, but eventually, give me some time. We're gonna get it on the ground. You're gonna see exactly what I'm talking about, and it comes up really, really quickly. So to just get that hip flexor and glute kind of talking to each other, super beneficial. Finished up that sequence with some cross hack squats here. I've got a heavier kettlebell. I want to say that's probably a 45-pound kettlebell at the center of my hands. A lot of my movements throughout this entire exercise were all in the sagittal plane, meaning forward and back. This right here, moving side to side, we're in the frontal plane. A very neglected plane in terms of what people usually train when they train legs. And if you're an athlete, if you're somebody who has to move dynamically, quickly, on a fly, turn on a dime, you've got to be working these different planes of motion. Me as a martial artist, as a gymnast, I'm going through all three planes of motion at any given moment: sagittal, frontal, and transverse. So it's very important for me to make sure that I have a lot of those, or as many of those bases or boxes checked off, because I will experience those when I'm doing my skill, when I'm practicing my art, and I want to stay as resilient and as injury-free as I possibly can. If I can mitigate that in training, well, that's kind of what it's all about. So that's why I throw those cross hack squats in. This next set of elevated step-ups here, I've got now 45-pound kettlebells in each hand, and which is important to know because, again, I've still got those straps. I've got my lifting straps to make sure that my forearms are not coming into this exercise and not being the limiting factor here. I'm still trying to work those legs. Deep hip flexion, deep knee flexion, a little bit of ankle flexion right there, but mostly working those quads, glutes, and hip flexors when that knee comes up through. You'll see me sometimes, like just right now, I'll put my foot, instead of stepping up through, I'll put my foot down on the plate right next to the active foot, just to mitigate any kind of balancing issues or anything of the sort. Going back into those cross-hack squats, now I've got about, I want to say that's a 55-pound kettlebell. So 45 pound, we started off those step ups with 35 pounds and then went up to about a 45 pound cross hack. Then I went up to 45 pound step ups, and now I'm at about a 55 pound kettlebell on the cross hack. Still working in that frontal plane, working a little bit more adductors, the adductors as some people like to call them, the inner thighs, okay, which aid in internal rotation, aid in balancing external rotation as it relates to internal rotation. But just once again, a box that has to be checked off, that has to be covered, especially if you're a very dynamic, moving athlete. I would recommend this to anybody. Maybe not necessarily at this weight, but if you're a mover, if you can move, if you've got 2 arms and 2 legs that are healthy, strong, you're an athlete. That's how I see it anyway. You are an athlete. Let's not get mixed up in this notion or this boneheaded thought process of, oh, you're only an athlete if you play football or basketball or baseball. No, those are athletes too. But if you can move, you're an athlete. Congratulations, y'all. Finally, very, very last exercise that we got here is the heaviest step up that I can do. And notice I'm not bringing the knee through. I'm not bringing the knee up. I'm bringing it right up to that active foot to just mitigate any kind of balancing issues. This was already my heaviest set, and now my quads, my glutes were cooked. At this point, they were absolutely fried. So balancing was not gonna be a big concern of mine. I was more concerned with loading the muscle, with providing the necessary intensity, still having good posture, still retaining good form. A little bit, I could definitely go a little slower on the eccentric, but you know, hey, I'm gonna cut myself a break. This was the last part of the workout. This was the last part of the training session, and I was like, you know what? Nah, we're gonna just run this. We're gonna run this as best as we can, and get to the other end right here, y'all. So, in just a few moments, we'll go right here. There we go. We're now working with about a 65-pound kettlebell on the cross hack, and just once again working that good range of motion, paying close attention to how my body's reacting, how I feel, whether or not this is something that I can continue to do. And at this point, I only got 5 reps. 5 was all that I needed. It was a heavy enough weight to stimulate that good intensity. And I felt that by this point, hey, I had covered as many boxes as I possibly could. So I felt good about just keeping it at 5 reps, making sure that range of motion was in check, and just, you know, finishing strong, y'all, finishing strong. So that's gonna do it for us here, y'all. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next one.
That's cool. I liked it.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, that's it. If you made it this far, like, share, comment, subscribe, rumble, all that good shit. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.